are we all? Hi, Mr. Pinkle. Oh, you're having a flare? Well, perfect timing. I'm sort of flaring too. Stress from being featured on Lynette's helpline. Oh, welcome everyone. Hopefully, not too many of you are flaring though. I don't want to have jinxed it. Maybe I jinxed it by making this a live about flares. Oh dear. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. Let me know how the sound is, if the music's too loud or too soft, and if the audio is okay or not. Hopefully, in the next week or so, I may be able to get a microphone, so the audio will be better. So yeah, I'll just wait for more people to come in. The weather, it's sunny today. We've just had a solid couple of days of absolute torrential downpour, so it's nice to have the sun out. But let's have a look at the temperature. If it'll load. For some reason it's not loading. It's 19 degrees, so it's a nice day. What about you? Apparently it's going to be sunny for the rest of the week, thank goodness, because that rain was intense. I think that my flare was from overdoing it. I've been very, very busy lately, and just I woke up this morning to do my usual routine and came into the bunny room and heard little feet pitter-pattering to discover that Daisy had escaped their night crate and had wreaked havoc all night in the bunny room. So I really do want to get a little camera to put up so that I can see what they're doing when I'm not in the room. Oh, she's running around now. Oh my gosh, minus in parts of the city over the past few nights. No, thank you. I don't think I could do that. I think the coldest that's gotten around here recently is about 12 degrees, and that was just brutal for me personally. That's awful. Let me just check this is working, because usually by now we've got a few people in. Maybe, did everyone get a notification? I hope people got notifications. Hey Renee, how are you? So I always forget to do this, but I want to say hello to everyone who's watching the replay. A lot of people can't get to the lives, so because of the time difference or that they're flaring. So I want to say hello to all of the Big Panel Chat and Diane's channel. I don't know who Diane is, unfortunately. Was not great anyway, swollen ankles, and then my dad got sick and he's in hospital, so having to visit him. Oh, that is really exhausting. Hospitals in themselves are very exhausting. And it's stressful when someone's sick. I think that can cause flares. I've had family members in the hospital and it's stressed me out, which has caused flares. So for today's Chronic Illness Club, the last couple of weeks has been sort of very structured, and today I want it to be a little bit more relaxed. Not only because I'm flaring and I haven't been able to do a whole bunch of preparation, but because when it comes to flares, it's so individual and every single person flares differently. Every single person, the symptoms of their flares are different, their illnesses are different, the triggers for them are different. So there's no one way of flaring. So this is a collective sort of chat about flares. Oh, I'm so sorry that you didn't have a good night's sleep. Hey TTNZ, how are you? How are you doing? I love your new profile picture. I forgot to say that the other day. So, yeah, for me, I'm flaring at the moment. I think the trigger was I've been overdoing it. There's been a lot of, the 2 weeks prior, there's been a lot of stress, and I think I was flaring from that, and then I didn't get over the flare before I sort of pushed myself a lot. On Monday this week, so 2 days ago for me, me and my sister totally rearranged the bunny room. And so now in the bunny room, I have a lounge, which is it's just awesome because now I can sort of lay down because it's a decent sized lounge. I can lay down in the bunny room and it's really cozy and chilled. So I'm actually in the bunny room at the moment, and it's actually it's a very low lounge, which will work really well for when I get my microphone, because I've been doing so much research on that to make sure I get the right one. And the one that I want is on a little stand, so the height would be perfect for it. So that's what I've been up to. What did I do yesterday? I had my car registered yesterday. And then this morning I realised I had so much to do before the live stream. I usually cook my dinner early, especially on Wednesdays for the live stream, because after the live stream I need to rest. So I cooked dinner, and then I realised I was out of food for my dog, so I had to quickly cook her some food as well. So it's been a busy morning again here. I'm hoping that after this live, I'm going to go and rest and prepare for an announcement video tomorrow that's coming out on my channel about something that's starting on Monday, and that's all I'm going to say. Mr. Pinkle thought that the chat today would be about stylish 70 pant fashion at first. Well, we can discuss that if that's where your heart truly lies. I was actually, just before I did, I came on, I was preparing for the live, and went onto YouTube and put in, because I find it very interesting to put chronic illness stuff into Google. So I wrote something like, what is a chronic illness flare, into Google, because I like to see what comes up. And I went to images, and the thumbnail for this video was in the second row. And I was so chuffed about that, to be honest with you. So chuffed. And I've just remembered something I need to add into the images for later. Which you can see now, but that's okay. Alrighty. Yeah, well, it wasn't meant to be a bunny room. So it was my sister's room, and my sister moved out, and it just sort of became like a, one of those rooms where you put your junk. And then I was thinking about getting another animal, and I was thinking, oh, maybe a rabbit. And I ended up um, coming across a rabbit that needed to be rescued. So I thought, oh great, well I'll just put him in my sister's room. I'll just set up like a little cage. And then I found out that, well, no, they're not meant to be in little cages. They actually need quite a lot of room. So I was like, okay, well, I'll make the pen a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger. And then I ended up just using the whole room. Um, so that they've got a really decent sized room now, and they absolutely love it. And it's like a second room for me because I'm not just sitting in my bedroom all day now. I can come in here and hang out. My dog Bella absolutely loves the lounge, so she just comes in and chills out as well. So I'm just so excited about it. So happy with it now. It feels like a real room. Hey Britt, how you doing? You're lurking and half asleep. That's totally fine. Whilst you're here, I might just quickly mention. Let me quickly go back into my emails. So Britt has been letting me know about what's been going on with her. I think most of us know that she had a colonoscopy and she discovered that she has colitis. She's had pain for the last 14 years, which is just awful. But her GI doc doesn't think that the colitis is actually what's causing her pain. I'm so sorry if you can hear that dog howling. This is why I need a microphone. They actually want her to go back to a gynecologist. So I guess Britt's just looking for a little bit of support. If anyone has had something like this happen and can speak on it, that would be great. If you're watching live and you can type it in the chat. And if you're watching this on a replay, please feel free to say something in the comments as well. Because obviously 14 years is such a long time to have that pain. There's obviously something going wrong. There's something that's not... oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that dog. It's the most vocal neighborhood dog ever. There's obviously something going on, and I think Britt's just really frustrated and could use some support. So Britt, we're all thinking of you. And are you seeing a gynecologist in 4 days, Britt? Oh my goodness, that dog. I'm so sorry, guys. I hope it's not too loud. This is the time when I need the microphone and to mute it. How very frustrating. And 14 years is such a long time. You'd think that someone would have worked it out already. Sounds like you might need someone to go with you to help advocate for you and to sort of push maybe. I find personally that if I have someone else with me when I go to appointments, it's great for a few reasons. It's 4 days since you've been on the steroids. How are you feeling? Are you feeling any different? But for me personally, I find that if I have someone with me when I go to appointments, it's great for a memories point of view. Like sometimes you forget things, but it's also great because sometimes I feel that it validates how you're feeling more, and the other person that's with you, be a family member or friend, they can sort of confirm that what you're saying is what's going on, and they can show an outside perspective. And sometimes you do need that, because some of these illnesses are invisible, and sometimes doctors don't believe you, as sad as that is. So having someone to go with you can sometimes really help. I'm so sorry you've got a headache and boosted anxiety on the steroids. I do think that both of those are very common symptoms. I think I do know someone who had a lot of boosted anxiety because of steroids. I don't know what to offer you in terms of how to help that. Just know that we're here for you if you need to talk about it. And maybe just try and remind yourself that this is because of medication, and just keep reminding yourself that you are safe. You really are. I've had a steroid headache and they're really gross. I don't know about anyone else, if anyone else has had them, but when I was on steroids, I did have some headaches and they were real gross headaches. Can you guys hear the dog? That dog sometimes wails at really late at night, which makes me so sad for the dog, but also kind of annoyed. Hey, Huxley, come here. So Britt says she's working with the GI and the psych. That's great. Awesome. Well, we're all here for you and we're all supporting you. So let's move on to the topic for today, which is flares. As I said, flares are so very personal to each person. What causes a flare for me may not cause a flare for you. Symptoms are different because illnesses are different, so no two people are alike. There are certain things that will cause flares. So the usuals are weather changes, barometric pressure also as well. So the cold and the heat can cause different sort of symptoms to flare up. Stress, and there's all sorts of different type of stress. There's emotional stress. There's physical stress on the body as well. So say you, I don't know, do a 5-kilometer walk. That could cause stress for you if you can manage to do a 5-kilometer walk. I think they're the main keys as well. I did have an image. This is sort of a very, very, very vague general statement about what a flare is. So just wait for the image to pop up because of the beautiful delay that there is with OBS and YouTube. So what is a flare? A flare is when symptoms of a chronic illness become excruciatingly painful and flare up. Some flares can be over quickly, whilst others can last months or years. And the thing about that is you never know how long a flare is going to last, and that can be really hard emotionally because it's exhausting. A flare is exhausting, and you don't have the ability to say, oh, okay, well, it'll be better tomorrow, so, I can get back into the swing of things. You've got no idea whatsoever. So it's very hard when you're in a flare to sort of see the other side because you don't know when that other side will be. Stress, hormones, a change in the weather, or doing more than normal can cause a flare, but sometimes they can occur for no apparent reason. That absolutely happens. I'm sort of thinking I know what caused this flare, but at the same time, I don't really know. And I find that actually can be more frustrating. If I know the reason for a flare, I can sort of rationalize it. But if I don't know the reason, it makes me kind of annoyed and angry. Hey, Shahid, how are you doing today or tonight for you? So stress, emotional stress. I find that's probably the biggest trigger for me. Mostly because when it comes to then being having stress, it's it can whatever the stress is. Sometimes it can cause some anxiety, which gives you that fight or flight instinct, which can really ramp up the effects of a flare. Changing the weather absolutely does it for me. I've noticed this winter, I've just been pretty much since this winter started, I've been a mess. And obviously doing more than normal absolutely causes to the week because of it. And I haven't. And so I feel like I'm constantly playing catch up. flares are a physical thing. Your symptoms are worse, whatever they are. Sometimes they're excruciatingly painful, but also it can just be a fatigue flare. I have a lot of, oh, I hope you're okay, Mr. Pinkle. I hope it's just like a regular, oh no, you're going to the hospital for your dad. Okay, sending you lots and lots of love, and I'll speak to you later. So sometimes I just have a fatigue flare. I personally find fatigue flares are a lot harder to deal with than pain flares. Pain flares, you can sort of, for me personally, I can use some distraction tools and things like that. But when it comes to a fatigue flare, there's nothing you can really do. You just have to rest. And that is the key for a flare, is to rest. I did find a really great article from here we go. Let me just quickly get it. I found a really great article from Tony. Oh, it's called How to Be Sick. It's a really, really great book. It's called How to Be Sick, a Buddhist-inspired guide for the chronically ill and their caregivers. Let me quickly look so I can show you the. I don't want to sign in though. Okay, never mind then. Just go to How to Be Sick. No, let's go back. I really recommend this book. Okay, well, it's logging me in anyway. Okay, so let's see if you can see it properly. Yeah, this life-affirming, instructive, and thoroughly inspiring book is a must-read for anyone who is or might one day be sick. It's a really great book. If you can maybe you can Audible it, or you can Kindle it. I read it and it's really great, so I would recommend it. So she's written an article about 7 ways to survive a flare when you're chronically ill. Let me just pull up chat on my phone because I can't see it on the computer right now. If you think you're flaring, Renee, you probably are. That's the best advice I have. So let's have a little look at these 7 ways and see if maybe there's something here that might help someone. So this is written, obviously, again by Toni Bernhard, so I absolutely adore her stuff. So here we go. Part of living day to day with chronic illness, which includes chronic pain, is learning to cope with a flare in symptoms. Even though my parade of symptoms tend to be relentlessly the same at times, they flare and can even feel out of control. Here are 7 suggestions for effectively handling what seems to be an inevitable consequence of being chronically ill. Sorry, I'm just waiting for it to load up on YouTube for you. I'll start reading though. Number 1, don't fight it. This really is the key. You need to let it go. This is one I have to remind myself about every time I'm in a flare, because the first reaction is to aversion. Go away, I don't want to feel this lousy. But ordering a flare to go away has never worked for me, not once. Not only that, but fighting it tends to make things worse because it adds a layer of mental stress to the difficulty you're already experiencing. Fighting it can especially affect pain levels, sending them sky high. You may not be able to accept a flare as gracefully as you wish you could, but I suggest that, at the very least, you acknowledge it gently with words such as these. This is a flare, I'm sad about it, but it's what's happening in my life right now. Acknowledging it in this way, even if it brings tears to your eyes, keeps aversion at bay, and this helps you address the symptoms without adding mental suffering to the mix. This is such a key, I think. And it is important to say to yourself, this is a flare, it will end, just allow it to be for right now. Because there isn't anything you can do about it. You can't talk yourself out of a flare. You can't overdo it to get yourself out of the flare. It takes some time to learn that, though. In the beginning, I just kept pushing and pushing, which would make me worse and worse for a longer period of time, instead of actually doing more about it. Number 2, don't blame yourself even if your actions caused the flare. Sometimes I can't pinpoint the cause of a flare. Other times I can. When I can, it's almost always because I continued with an activity for too long. If you realize that a flare is due to your own actions, don't blame yourself. It's natural for you to sometimes go over your limits. Blaming yourself for it serves no useful purpose. I'm not suggesting that you can't learn from your mistakes. In fact, it can be extremely valuable, as in, when I visit people for over an hour, it sets off flare-in symptoms. That said, however, what's done is done. Learn from it, but don't make yourself feel worse by engaging in self-blame. This is the very time you need to be treating yourself with extra gently and kindly, the way you treat a loved one who was in a flare. So true. There is no point in talking negatively to yourself and to blame yourself for it. It is what it is, and you do usually learn from it, and that is so true. Like, I've learnt that so even say with these lives, I've learnt that if I push it to that 2 hours, I've overdone it. I've worked out that for me to comfortably do a live, I've got about an hour. Anything over that, I'm going to really feel for a couple of days. So I know what my limits are. Sometimes you know your limits and you do it anyway. And then you have to accept, it's going to cause a flare, and that's okay. So let's look at number 3. This is a really important one. Postpone all non-essential tasks. When I'm in a flare, my ability to concentrate can become non-existent. In addition, it takes more energy than usual to do the simplest things, and yet some life tasks can't be ignored. When your symptoms flare, I suggest you make a list of things you think you have to do, and then prioritize it by putting your absolute have-tos at the top of the list. Then turn this initial list into 2 lists. Your new list number 1 will contain those absolute have-tos, and your new list number 2 will contain everything else. Take that second list and put it aside for another day. What is an absolute have-to? The answer, of course, depends on your circumstances. If you have children at home, obviously caring for them is an absolute have-to. Other than that, I'd include such things as feeding yourself, keeping medical appointments, getting prescriptions filled, dealing with emergency home maintenance. If your kitchen sink backs up, you need to call someone who can unplug it. However, I make a list of things that I simply must do. I'm always amazed at how many of the tasks that I thought were an absolute have to, doing a lot of washing or pulling up weeds on the path to my house, aren't actually essential. The clothes and the weeds will be there another day when I'm not feeling as sick or in such pain. So study that initial list you made and be ruthless in eliminating tasks that aren't absolute have-tos. That's so key, and I think that that's what I talked about a lot with spoonie planning as well, and that's something I definitely do. And it's hard because, you know, there's always something that you have to do. There's always a to-do list, and when you are flaring, you do have to let it go, and it can be very frustrating mentally, but you just have to let that go. Okay, number 4, ask for help. You may need help with those absolute have-to tasks, such as getting a prescription from the pharmacy. If you're like me, you treasure your independence, yet sometimes it's not possible to do everything for yourself. In my experience, although I'm reluctant to ask for help, whenever I've done so, the person I've asked has been happy to pitch in. Most people feel good that they can help out friends or family who are chronically ill. After almost 18 years of chronic illness, I've decided that asking for help is a gift from me to others because that makes them feel as if there's at least something they can do to make me feel better. And she says to practice asking for help see her article, How to Ask for Help. And she does talk about that a lot in the book, How to Be Sick, as well, in case anyone's interested. Number 5, reduce stress as much as possible. Even during a flare, I've never been able to eliminate all stress from my life. If you figure out how to do that, tell us all your secret. But I can reduce it a little here, a little there. It could be something as simple as not getting on the scale if your weight is a source of stress for you. It could mean cancelling plans with a friend whom you love, but who can also be stressful to be with. It could mean gently reminding yourself that all those non-essential tasks you put off for another day really are non-essential. A good way to reduce stress is to engage in tasks that aren't stressful, such as taking a warm bath or watching a movie on TV or listening to a favourite piece of music. And that takes me to the next suggestion, which is number 6, pamper yourself. If not now, when? Most of the suggestions in this piece can be seen as ways to pamper yourself, from not engaging in self-blame to asking for help to cancelling plans with a friend who can be a source of stress. These are all acts of self-compassion, the ultimate way to pamper yourself. This is the time to make your needs a top priority and to do whatever you self-care as possible. And the last tip is number 7, take refuge in the universal law of impermanence. When I'm in a flare, I have a tendency to think, this is it, I'll feel like this from now on. But this has never been the case. I always return to my baseline, and so it's helpful to remind yourself that life is unpredictable and ever-changing. A flare could last for weeks or even months, but it could also end as quickly as it came on. I find it comforting to reflect on impermanence when I'm in a flare. I suggest that you remind yourself several times during the day that everything is in flux, including your symptoms. The flare seems to be talked about among the chronically ill, only talked about among the chronically ill. Other people tend to think that however we feel on a given day is how we feel every day, but those of us who are chronically ill know that's not the case. I hope these suggestions have been helpful, sending good wishes to everyone. So I really love this article, and I really, really love all of Toni Bernhard's work and her writing. So if you are looking for a book to read, How to Be Sick is absolutely fantastic. And I read it a couple of years into being sick, and I might even actually reread it. And if anyone's interested, we could also do like a book club on it, which is very interesting because who would have thought of doing a chronic illness book club? But I just found her work so helpful. She is a practicing Buddhist, so there is a couple of sort of mentions of that in there and things that she does religiously, I guess. But I think that they can be applied to being chronically ill, and how much that really helps in the long run. So let me know if you're interested in reading the book. Maybe we can read it together, or maybe I can just do a live on that book and just do like an in-depth review on it for anyone that's interested. But yeah, so those tips I find, or those suggestions on how to survive the flare, they really are the key. And like she said, she's been sick for 18 years, so I'm sure she's had a couple of dozen/100 flares, so she totally understands. And that you never know how long they're going to last either. So I don't know whether notifications have actually gone out for this live because I can't actually see many people here at all, which is very odd. So I'm kind of thinking that pre-planning the event may actually not work to my benefit, because I noticed that when I don't pre-plan the event, when I just go randomly live, more people actually do tend to come into the chat. So I think from now on I'm not going to plan the event, set the reminder. I think I'm just going to go live and go from there. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm actually going to, it says I've been live for 23 minutes, so I guess I must have buffered at some point as well. We've been live for just about 40 minutes. So what I am going to do is I'm actually going to end the live here because I've given you the information I wanted to give, and because there is no one else here apart from the lovely Renee and maybe one other person, we can't have the discussion that I wanted to. So I'm actually going to start a new live and just have a general chronic illness chit chat. And next week, there won't be a topic for Chronic Illness Club. It'll just be a general chit chat, and there won't be a event set up. I'll just go live on the Wednesday, Tuesday for the Americans, to have a little chat about chronic illness in general. TTNZ only got the notification for Sunday. Okay, so that I have a feeling that's what's happening, because I have noticed that when I just go randomly live, there's a lot more people, and then I don't know whether all of the reminders come out for the events. So I think we should experiment right now, and I'm gonna end this live here. Thank you to everyone who's watched, either live or via replay, and I'm going to go live again and see what happens. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Bye, guys.